Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I had Becky and you. I don't think I had Jenny yet. If I did have Jenny, she was a baby. But
This was Newburgh.
this is in Newburgh. Um, but the missionaries knocked on the door, and we invited him in, offered him a cup of coffee. They said, we don't drink coffee. So we offered them a cup of tea, and they didn't drink tea either. So we offered them, I can't remember, if it was lemonade or water or something. And so they gave us the first discussion.
This is with Dad. Dad was
This
there?
is with Dad,
Okay.
Dad and I. And so they said they were going to come back, but they never came back. But we lived up, you had to go up 1, 2, 3 hills before you got to our house. And so I think they probably had a transfer or something. I don't know, but they never came back. I'm thinking that's probably why. And so then we moved sometime later to Alabama. But I'll go back that when I was about 14 years old, I wanted to find a church. I really wanted to. I had gone to church with, we were Methodist, but I'd gone to church with my aunt who was Catholic, and I'd gone with my grandmother who was Dutch Reform, and then I was raised Methodist with my parents, and so I was really interested in religion at that time. And so then when Dad was in the military. First, I'll have to back up because Dad was in the military, and we went to every church you can think of. Holy Rollers. I don't know, people that scream and holler, and we went to tents, to revivals, all churches trying to find a church.
So this was you and Dad?
That was Dad
going
and I.
with you.
That was
Okay.
before we had any kids. That was Dad and I. So then we got back to Newburgh, and then when Dad worked for IBM, got a job with IBM, we moved to Alabama, and I went to the Methodist church. We'd go to the Methodist church, and the preacher was preaching one Sunday and made a comment that if Jesus was walking the earth today, he would be one of those hippies. I think my mouth hit the floor. And so I thought, oh, golly. And I had known that the Methodist Church was really, I don't know, didn't really teach true religion. That was for, I don't know why I knew that. I guess from reading some of the stuff I was reading. Anyway.
This is the 60s.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So then I had an argument with him, and I said, Jesus wouldn't be one of those hippies. And he said, yes. And I said, is that what I'm supposed to believe in? He said, yes. And he says, and if you don't believe it, you should go to another church, go to a fundamentalist church. And so we walked out of there and never went back. And I decided then, well, I guess there really isn't a God. With all the, you would not believe all the stuff we were listening to from all these preachers. And so the missionaries knocked on my door, and I didn't let them in that time. And then they come back and knocked on the door again, and that time I let them in. I welcomed them into the house, and they came in. Of course, then in the meantime, I met Sonia Summers, and I used to ride a bike around with you girls when you'd be riding around the streets, we'd stop and talk to Sonia. And she had just joined the church, and too. So I was telling her about the Methodist preacher because she was Methodist too. And so anyway, she was talking a little bit about the Mormon church, but she didn't say too much. And then the missionaries knocked on her door again. You know, I don't know how long after that, not too long. And I invited them in, and they came in, and I sat and listened to them, and I asked them if they'd come back that night, and they did. And then that's when you guys all sat around, and Dad was going to the University of Alabama at night, so he couldn't take, he wasn't there. But anyway, they came in, they talked to us, and they were coming back. They were going to come. That time we made an appointment for a Wednesday night, and they were coming back. And we had just sat down to eat so that Dad could go to school. He had gotten home from work, and so he could go to school. And a knock came at the door, and it was two Methodist preachers. And they wanted to come in, and they said that they had just been in the neighborhood, and they said that they're directed to come to my house.
This was in 1966.
Mm-hmm. And so they came in, and I told them right away when they said, I said, I have an appointment with the Mormon missionaries tomorrow, so I'm not really interested. Well, that was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. They were still here when Dad got out of class. He got home at around 10, after 10. They were still here. Then Dad went out to the trailer to do studying because he couldn't, that's where he would do his study and homework. And he came back in a couple hours later. They were still there, and that time he told them to leave. And
they were arguing with you and bashing the Mormons.
Yeah, Tal told me not to see those Mormons and all like that. and I said, yes, I am. I have an appointment with them. They're coming. Well, you shouldn't meet with them. I can't remember what they said they were, but anyway, but I meant that I was taking the discussions, and every place I went, I would go to the store, grocery store, and I'd run right into one or the other one. There was two of them when they came, and I got scared. It was just an evil thing. It was really something. And so then I got so that I would take you girls with me, one of you oldest girls with me, to get groceries, because Dad would stay home with the younger ones, and I'd take one of you girls with me. And that went on until I was baptized. And so really, I knew it was true, and I had right away. I knew that was the church I wanted to belong to, and I have never had a doubt since. I just I did things in the LDS church I never thought I could do. I was in primary, and I taught kids. I can remember my first calling was teaching the Mary Misses. And they asked me, and I said, I don't know how, I will give you a manual. I said, okay. I studied that, and I studied that all week. And I said, boy, these kids are going to know more than I do about the church. But I loved it. And I was primary for a long time, 10 years.
So like a year after you were baptized, you were called as the primary president?
Yeah, I was called probably wasn't long after I taught for a while, so maybe a year or so, and then I was called as one of the counselors. I can't remember. And then I was called as primary president, and I never thought I could do it. I'd sit back there and I'd listen to those sisters up there, and I thought, oh, I never do that. Never would I do that. And when they called me, I said, oh, I can't do that. I never do. Oh, yeah, you can. Lord will help you.
You did a great job.
And
So in Huntsville, were you in the stake?
then I was called the state primary president. And I was state primary president until we moved here to Texas.
That's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got here and you were called as Relief Society president.
Yes.
I think that's why those Methodist preachers were, you know, if you think about it, everything you've done, everything that you have accomplished, you look at all your children, all your grandchildren, great-children.
Grandchildren. Mm-hmm.
You've done a lot, Mom.
Yeah.
And every one of us appreciates and everything you did. We're so thankful. Not appreciation is not the right word. We are all very thankful for everything you did, for joining the church.
But Dad joined the church. That just as soon as that one semester got over with, he joined the church, and so he had a word of wisdom, and he had to overcome that. And I'm so proud of him overcoming that word of wisdom, because I had no idea how hard it was.
I remember him going through it, the smoking.
I never realized how hard it was. And because I never liked coffee, but I drank tea. And I drank hot tea, and I drank iced tea. I don't know if you remember, you kids used to drink, I gave you kids iced tea. And just drinking the tea, I had a headache for a long time after I stopped drinking tea.
Mm.
Yeah. So can you imagine what Dad went through?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't imagine. Yeah, I feel sorry for him. But, yeah, it was hard.
But look what he accomplished in his life in the church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was in the bishopric, and then he was a high councilman. He was young men's president. And
I remember he was young men's president when I was in young women's, and we went roller skating. And he was just whipping around on those roller skates. I was so impressed. So he and I were skating around together. We got to, you know, a corner of the oval that we skate on, and he lifted one foot and put it over the other to turn the corner. And
he went down?
He went down and slid straight down that wooden floor we were roller skating on. It was so funny, and something that I, you know, still remember and still talk about.